Welcome to Lord and Richards Radio, a program that will enable you to become more financially independent and prosperous from a biblical point of view. Tune in each week to learn how to prosper through good markets and bad. Now, here's our host, Colin Richards, your biblical investment advisor.
Hi, friends. I'm glad to be with you today on Lord and Richards Radio. I'm Colin Richards, founder and president of Lord and Richards. We're a team of advisors who are dedicated to helping people just like you retire financially independent. And we're doing that every single day. On this show, we're discussing investing and planning from the perspective of key biblical principles, a little bit different way of looking at money. We also talk about how to use methods and strategies that will enable you to prosper through both up and down markets. And that's so important in today's volatile world. I'd love to chat with you. My team and I would love to help you, talk to you about your specific questions regarding retirement and saving and investing from a biblical point of view. Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 720-372-0400. Again, that's 720-372-0400. I'd love to chat with you about how you can achieve financial independence from a biblical point of view. Or just check us out on the web at lordandrichards.com. Hey folks, this is Colin Richards, president and founder of Lord and Richards, and once again, I'm excited to be with you on this particular edition of the Lord and Richards Show. And as those of you know who've watched our show for years or perhaps recently started tuning in either on radio, YouTube, podcasts, and so forth, we bring financial principles from a biblical point of view. At Lord and Richards, the Lord comes first in that equation, and we want to make sure that what we're doing is in harmony and in coordination with God's efforts to help us steward the resources He's entrusted to us. And so as we talk about retirement freedom, we do that in the context of an overall life view of stewardship of our time, our wealth, our health. And so today we're going to talk about the third of those. So we believe in freedom of time as a stewardship before God, and we achieve that for our clients at Lord and Richards in a distinctive way. We're specialists in the areas that we touch on. We're not generalists, and these are different from the kinds of topics that advisors who focus on accumulation are qualified to speak to as specialists. So during your working years, during the years when you're building and accumulating, you have access to many advisors who will help you simply design and build a portfolio for long-term growth. That's great. I call that addition. I view the science of retirement as calculus, because now we get into how to draw money off of a stream of income so that you never run out of money before you run out of life. And then also how to dodge and weave and avoid the catastrophic things that can come to you through perhaps unexpected healthcare costs, market swings, and so on, or early death of a spouse. All of these can present huge financial difficulties, and Lord and Richards is expert. We specialize in navigating those kinds of problems and preparing for them in advance in how we build and design your retirement freedom roadmap. And so today we've worked our way through the first of those freedoms, freedom of time, in which an abundant income is necessary to create the time in your life so you don't have to go to work to get that income. And then, of course, freedom of health. People who have health issues are focused on that. They're not able to spend their time focused on in pursuing happiness, joy, and fulfillment in retirement. So we want you to have the resources to invest proactively in your health, as well as have resources that are abundant if devastating chronic illness type of cost should come into your life. And this is going to affect probably 70% of the people that are listening to me right now. And that's a sobering statistic, and one we should be prepared in advance for, not wait until something like that happens in our family. And then we've been talking about freedom of wealth. That is how to avoid those devastating market losses that can really wreak havoc on your portfolio and rob you of the other two. Freedom of time, because now there's no longer the ability to generate income. Freedom of health, because there's not an abundant source to cover those costs. And so we began the last time we visited on this subject, of the difference between institutions and how they think versus individuals. Who has the bigger job out there? Is it an individual who's planning a retirement that's going to last over your lifetime? So hopefully a retirement of 30 years or more. Or are we faced with a more difficult task if we're managing for an institution that's trying to solve problems for an indefinite amount of time. I would suggest it's the latter. And as the president of a foundation myself, I know the challenges of planning for an indefinite future. And it takes a different tack and forces us to consider different tools and resources. And we learn that foundations and endowments, for example, will invest differently because they're investing over such a long time horizon. And we can learn from that as pre-retirees or retirees. Now, don't get bogged down in low probability of success strategies that are, again, typically put forward just for retirees. Let's utilize high probability of success strategies. The difference between low probability are those like, for example, putting all your money in the market, where a sudden downturn could suddenly rob you of everything that you've accumulated over your lifetime. We saw this happen in 2008 when people saw their 401ks become 201ks, as we say. I know it's not funny if you experienced it. And so we never want you to experience that again. But most people aren't aware that there are options available to you besides just stocks and bonds. We use those at Lord & Richards, but we use bonds in a limited fashion, and especially not in bond funds, because you carry just as much risk in a bond fund as you do in a stock fund. You say, well, what do you mean, Colin? Well, in a recent market downturn in 2022, we saw bond funds drop as much as stock funds. You might say, well, how can that happen? Well, the truth is that bonds are very sensitive to interest rate changes. And guess what happened? Interest rate changes. And so if you see a drop of only, maybe you have a bond fund where your average is 4% on the bonds, and suddenly somebody comes out with a shiny new bond that's worth 5%, your bond is now going to trade at a discount of 25%. Difference, right? Because you're no longer going to you're going to take 1% of 4 and add that to come to 5. So that's 25%, not just 20%. So that's a significant discount. And when you have that in a fund, you don't have the security of knowing that at the end of the bond term, you get all your money back. And so we want to position ourselves and point our rudder towards strategies that have a high probability of success. For example, principal protected alternative investments. This is how many foundations and endowments invest. Now, they may have alternative investments that have higher risk, but they also incorporate strategies that employ principal protection. A great example of this that I give is the market-linked CD or market index CD created in 1987. This CD has all the downside protection of a modern CD, but it allows you to link your returns to a stock market index. Did you know that even existed and has been around for almost 40 years? Amazing that we don't have these tools being recommended to us. But of course, at Lord & Richards, these and similar protected strategies are available to you, and they make all the difference in the world. We combine them in a way we call the barbell, a term I borrowed from Morgan Housel's great book, The Psychology of Money, and from listening to him speak. Morgan is a friend and advisor to some of the highest net worth individuals in the world. He's a behavioral psychologist, and he's focused on how people behave with money. And you know, there are certain behaviors that more than likely lead to success and certain behaviors that more than likely lead to failure. And at Lord & Richards, we teach you those success behaviors. We want you to learn from the greats of investing and finance. And one of those mentalities we call the barbell. That means on one side of your portfolio, you're being very optimistic about the future. Right? We have a long-term optimistic view at Lord & Richards. I do personally, that life here in the United States is better than life anywhere else on earth, and that this country and its companies are a great investment over the long term, right? So yes, invest in the stocks of great companies. Take a piece of ownership in America. But in the short term, we're very paranoid or pessimistic because we know that outside forces, not even related to the strength and the health of a company, can change the price of that company's stock. The stock market is like a flea market, and the values go up and down. And of course, we want to buy when the values are low, and we want to sell when the values are high. But really what I recommend is owning great companies for the long term, an approach that Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, two of the greatest investors of all time, espouse. And so it's about being optimistic for the future, but on the other side, being paranoid in the short term. Let's have something on the other side of your portfolio barbell that is principal protected and yet has still great growth opportunity. And so in our next segment, we're going to talk about how we do that specifically at Lord and Richards. But in the meantime, I want to connect with you. I want to really visit with you about how to incorporate these amazing principles into your retirement freedom roadmap. It simply starts with a phone call. Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 720-372-0400. Again, that's 720-372-0400. I'd love to chat with you about how you can achieve financial independence from a biblical point of view. Or just check us out on the web at lordandrichards.com. Hi, friends. This is Colin Richards, president and founder of Lord and Richards, and we're in a segment here today about freedom of wealth. And in our prior segment, we talked about kind of the general principles of retirement freedom, freedom of health, freedom of time, freedom of wealth. And zeroing in on freedom of wealth, we talked about dispensing with the low probability of success strategies that most of us are presented. And that even includes the kind of worn out adage concerning the 60-40 stock bond portfolio. There are numerous articles out there that you can read on your own about why this is really dead advice and doesn't work, because just mixing together stocks and bonds does not protect you on the downside, nor does it give you the best returns on the upside. And so what we recommend at Lord & Richards is a barbell, where on one side, we enjoy the upside of the stock market, knowing that it contains risk. And what we want to do there is we don't want to have our lifestyle dependent upon the money that we place in the stock market. Now that I know is contrarian advice. Most of us have listened for years to people telling us to put together a stock and bond portfolio, go out and put money in the market and take out 4% every year and you'll be just fine. Well, the statistics say otherwise, and economists have studied this, and the real safe withdrawal rate from that kind of portfolio, maybe 2.5% to 3%, if you don't want to run out of money before you run out of life, or at least have a high probability or likelihood of not running out of money. So we need to do something different. That's clear. But what are we going to do? Well, I recommend that the stock portion of your portfolio not be primary for your income. Let's have other income sources. For example, most of you will have Social Security. Some of you will have government pensions like a para or private pensions. But then what do we do with the rest of our portfolio? Because we may need to supplement our Social Security to really enjoy the lifestyle that we become accustomed to. And by all means at Lord & Richards, we're not suggesting to you the typical advice of slashing your lifestyle when you get to your retirement years. We're specialists in retirement. We're focused in on that. And our goal is that you continue and even enhance that lifestyle throughout your retirement years. One way I illustrate this in my public events is by asking the audience, okay, during your working years, if you had a typical Monday through Friday work schedule, what days of the week do you tend to spend the most discretionary money on, going out to eat, having fun? Well, those tend to be weekends, people say. Okay, now imagine retirement. It's all weekends. So discretionary spending tends to go up. Travel, spending more time with the loved ones that you have, doing more for the people that you love. And from a biblical perspective, that's great. Peter tells us in his letter to take the gift that God has given us and use it to serve one another. It's about others, spending time with the people that you love, doing the things that you love for the reasons that are important to you. May include volunteering at church. Some of these are free, but it also may include some activities that cost money. Maybe you want to take up golf or join a fitness club. These are going to take what I call abundant income. And we don't want the things that you really need in life to come from an unstable, at-risk source such as the market. We want to use the market for growth. We want to use the market for wealth building, but we want to use other sources that are designed for income. And I'm not talking about dividend stocks. I'm not talking about CD laddering. Some of those things really don't work. Even your real estate portfolio needs to be backed up. And by the way, in real estate, you really face the difficulty of getting a high enough return on the value of your investment. I met with an investor the other day, and literally they were only getting a little over 2% return on their investment. And so that's sobering. So let's turn and look at sources that are guaranteed and abundant and put those on the other side of your barbell. So on one side, risk, focus on growth, but we're not dependent on those monies so that when the market does inevitably drop, you're not left holding the bag. And then on the other side, security and safety, but still with growth. You see, we talk about growth and safety on the same dollar at the same time. That is unique. That's a specialty of Lord & Richards, and we can show you how we do it. Something else that we do that's radically different is we build what's called a safety percentage for you. Now, there are folks out there who will say, we do better when you do better. But again, when I ask my public audiences this, or folks when we meet together for a complimentary interview, I ask people this question, well, what happens when you don't do better? And the most common response is they still do better, right? Because they're just drawing fees off your portfolio, whether you're enjoying the highs or the lows, and they're certainly having less impact than you. You're losing principal. They may be experiencing a small decline in their fees. And so, folks, there's a better way. When we sit down together and we visit, we present what I call the pyramid of doom. That's a little bit of a joke because it's a pyramid made up of 7 portfolios and their returns. And on one side of the pyramid are returns that are either conservative all the way down to aggressive. And on the other side are equal losses that are either conservative all the way down to aggressive. And my question is always, okay, folks, up here is our most conservative. It's at the top of the pyramid. And you really can't lose any money, but you're not going to make a lot. And then down here at the bottom of the pyramid is our most aggressive approach. And these are made up, by the way. These aren't tied to real portfolios. But you know what? In this particular place, you might experience huge growth, 40% growth, but also have the risk of 40% losses. So where do you fit along that continuum? Where is it that you want to be when the market goes down? I know you all want the great returns when it goes up, right? Yeah, give me the 45%, 50%, whatever. Well, yeah, but if you have a corresponding opportunity for losses, we have to ask ourselves emotionally, what can we really withstand? Now, you've probably been taught, don't follow your emotions, don't follow your gut, invest with your head. But that's physically impossible. We are a human being. We are a composite of intellect and emotions, mind, will, and emotion. And so that's a gift from God. So some of the great decisions I've made in my life, I've done because of emotion, like getting married. But when it comes to investing, we need to start with emotion, but we need to finish with logic. So let's honor how you feel. Many clients will tell me, well, Colin, I wouldn't want to see my portfolio drop more than 15% or 20%. Maybe some are more aggressive and they'll go past that. We say, okay, great. That's your safety percentage. The good news is you can change it anytime you want. So as you get older, you probably get a little more conservative. We'll keep adjusting that. And then what we're going to do that's so unique is we're going to design a portfolio that's designed not to break that, okay? A safety percentage, an opportunity to build something that will give you peace of mind using a barbell strategy where some tools have no risk of loss, other tools have risk, and the combination back-tested, forward-tested, every way tested to the best of our ability will not break through the threshold. That's our goal. And in our next segment, I'm going to tell you how we do it and what it looks like for you if you become a Lord & Richards client. It just starts with a simple phone call. Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 720-372-0400. Again, that's 720-372-0400. I'd love to chat with you about how you can achieve financial independence from a biblical point of view. Or just check us out on the web at lordandrichards.com. Hey folks, this is Colin Richards, president and founder of Lord & Richards. I'm so excited to be talking to you today about something that can really make a difference in your life. And that's what we call the Lord & Richards safety percentage. It's more than we do better than when you do better, right? That's just charging you fees that go up when your portfolio goes up. But, you know, they still do better when you do worse, okay? So we want something a little bit more concrete, and we call it the Lord & Richards safety percentage. And what we actually will do is, as a result of our conversation together and you sharing with us the most important things in your life, your goals, your values, and dreams, we're going to build a retirement freedom roadmap for you. And that roadmap is going to include within it, among other things, a safety percentage so that whether markets soar or whether they decline, you have the peace of mind of knowing that you've had a roadmap built that's designed not to let you go below a certain percentage, even if the markets drop through the floor. And we're testing this portfolio against the worst markets in history. We don't know what the future holds, but the past can be a help and a guide. It can help us point our rudder in the right direction when it comes to risk management. And that's what it's all about. When it comes to freedom of wealth, the third of our freedoms, freedom of time, freedom of health, freedom of wealth that you need to retire free financially, we need to make sure we address risk, and we do that using an institutional mindset. Think like colleges, endowments, and foundations. Let's go beyond the typical advice that you're getting and work with a specialist. Here's a client in front of me where their safety percentage that they shared with us was about 15%. So that meant they didn't want to ever see a decline in their portfolio of greater than 15%. Okay, well, let's go back and test their current portfolio. You know what we discovered? In a historic bear market, they could lose as much as 42.9%. I'm looking at it right in front of me. That is devastating, folks. If you're looking at retirement, that's called putting off retirement or having to dramatically reduce your income. So what we want to do is adjust that, fix that. Now, the long-term average of that same portfolio would be a little under 7%, about 6.86% average return. I think most of my listeners would agree that's great. That's a good upper moderate return. Nothing to be ashamed of. But it's that downside we got to fix. So you know what my team did? These amazing specialists went back to the drawing board and said, okay, let's take that current portfolio and redesign it. Same retirement date, all the same things, but what we're going to do is change the makeup. Use the barbell. On one side, safety with growth. On the other side, growth with liquidity, but risk. Right? And so we're obviously going to push growth a little higher on that side compared to the safety side, but we still want good solid growth on the safety side. And we can do that. That's a specialty. And when we redesigned this client's portfolio, we were actually able to keep them in the sixes in terms of their long-term average return, back tested, but we reduced their downside risk from minus 42 all the way up to minus 15. That's amazing. And that's something that we do every single day. And so here's the conclusion. You need a risk reduction specialist if you're going to truly enjoy freedom of wealth. If you want freedom of time, you're going to need an abundant income specialist like Lord and Richards that focuses in on that. That's what we do. If you want to enjoy freedom of health, extra funds to invest in your health, or to have extra money if there's a devastating healthcare cost, then come to us and learn how to use other people's money so that you can enjoy freedom of health to invest in yourself. And then thirdly, you're going to need a risk reduction specialist, somebody that knows how to avoid those devastating market downsides, but still give you position for growth in order to enjoy freedom of wealth. So freedom of health, freedom of wealth, freedom of time. Freedom of time, you need a distribution specialist, an income specialist. Freedom of health, you need a living benefit specialist, somebody who will help you utilize tools that you haven't yet been exposed to. I can promise you that. And then freedom of wealth, a risk reduction specialist. And in addition, at Lord & Richards, we do a tremendous job with estate and tax planning. We are estate specialists and tax specialists. An estate is simply organizing your life so that what you own doesn't wind up in the hands of the government, right? And that goes very hand in hand with a tax specialist. We even have an internal tax company called Lord & Richards Tax Services where we actually do taxes for some of our high net worth clients. But the main thing is that all of this planning comes at no additional charge to our clients. We literally charge the same fees for assets under management that you'll find right down the street from us, but we give you comprehensive planning, comprehensive retirement freedom roadmap, all at no additional cost. And here's our biblical principle to tie it all up in a bow. Jesus himself said, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there also will your heart be." That's from Matthew 6. And here's a great quote from Dr. James Dobson. "I have concluded that the accumulation of wealth, even if I could achieve it, is an insufficient reason for living. When I reach the end of my days, a moment or two from now, I must look backward on something more meaningful than the pursuit of houses and land and machines and stocks and bonds, nor is fame of any lasting benefit. I will consider my earthly existence to have been wasted unless I can recall a loving family, a consistent investment in the lives of people, and an earnest attempt to serve the God who made me. Nothing else makes much sense, and certainly nothing else is worthy of my agitation." What a profound and wonderful thought. Folks, at the end, it's really not about laying up treasure on earth. It's about being a steward of these treasures, our time, our talents, our treasure, into the lives of others and for the glory of God. What a wonderful life that would be. And at Lord & Richards, we want to remove the financial barriers that will keep you from enjoying the greatest sense of fulfillment, peace, love in the lives of others. We want to remove everything that's in the way and free you up financially to do the things that you love, with the people that you love, for the causes that are meaningful to you, whether expanding the kingdom or just expanding your family and investing in your grandchildren's lives. Here's what it involves. We simply sit down together for a retirement freedom review at no cost to you. All you have to do is pick up the phone and give us a call, and you can come and you can sit down with me. And I'll take you through the process, a journey to retirement freedom. I would love to sit down with you. I would love to talk to you. I would love to point you in a new direction from the standpoint of a specialist in retirement freedom. Clients are meeting with us every single day, just like you, and walking out with retirement freedom. For you, it just simply starts with a phone call. Just pick up the phone and give us a call at 720-372-0400. Again, that's 720-372-0400. I'd love to chat with you about how you can achieve financial independence from a biblical point of view. Or just check us out on the web at lordandrichards.com.
Investment advisory services offered through Lord & Richards Wealth Management, LLC.